Baseball podcast. Early draft results. Fred is flummoxed by Jordan Alvarez and Mike Trout's ADP. What do you do about closers? That and a whole lot more. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the good folks at WynnBET. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinke. It's been a while, Fred, since we've had a chance to chat. How are you?
I'm good. I've cultivated a lot of fantasy baseball thoughts in the last few weeks, and I haven't had anyone to share them with. As you could guess, no one in my immediate family is interested in my fantasy baseball thoughts. So I couldn't wait for today to have someone to talk to about all these ideas.
Oh, I'm glad that you stored them. You didn't go elsewhere. You didn't just shout them from the Twitter like I usually do or things like that. You actually saved them for this podcast. So
I did.
You've already done 4 slow drafts. I think you finished one today. Is that correct?
I am on. Wait, I'm losing track right now. I think I'm in my 4th one right now, in round 20 of my 4th one right now. I might have lost track. I'm like my 5th one, but I think it's my 4th one.
Now, are you doing 12 team, 15 team? What are you doing right now?
Just 12s so far. And I don't usually do a lot of 12 team leagues. I just found those NFBC 50s are just I hated mock drafts. I know Rob Silver does a great rant on used to do a great rant on how much he hates mock drafts. Like, I hated mock drafts. I just never found them productive. These I find very productive because people are drafting them all the way to the end. They're trying.
Yeah.
I'm getting a really good feel for the player pool. I'm not putting down my big money for, leagues that I'll save that money kind of investment for March, but I'm playing something out and I'm really enjoying them. But those NFBC 50s are 12 team leagues. So I've done 12 so far, not 15s.
So you know what? You and I are almost exactly the same. So I'm in the middle of my 4th NFBC 50. I'm in round 41. It's the only difference. And 3 others have been finished. This one's a 4-hour one. Usually I like the 2. I did one that was a 1-hour one, which in fact I did a 1, 2, and a 4 all at the same time. I bought a 3-pack. And that was great, except then I decided to travel to Tennessee to go follow my Bengals and was trying to draft 3 different teams while traveling over the same weekend. And I might have gotten auto-picked once or twice in the 1-hour draft. But fortunately, I keep stacking my queue, so it usually isn't too damaging. So we both have stuff to talk about and probably somewhat similar results.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've definitely picked up some trends for myself and just the player pool in general. By the way, I've been sticking with 2 hours. I do find it to be the sweet spot. And I love that they moved to 1 hour, that they cut the time in half, whatever round it is, round 30 or whatever, 25, they cut the time in half after that. I could do a 1 hour. I could not do a 4 hour. Like, bless you for doing a 4 hour. I could not have someone eat up the 4 hour clock.
Usually they don't, and then towards the end of the draft, it accelerates to 2, and the 2s accelerate to 1. By the way, I think it's after round 30, so it's not that bad. And most people are excited, like we are, right? So it's not that bad. But I hear you on that. And because this is my 4th one, maybe I don't care as much about the time difference. What positions have you drafted from?
Yeah, so I haven't been at the end yet. I've had 2 first picks and a 5th and a 7th. How about you?
I've had 3, 5, 7, and I think another 5. I haven't had a back of the draft yet.
And you like picking from the middle. So do I, but I know you like picking from the middle.
I do.
So
but I haven't set KDS.
I was going to ask
I'm taking what comes.
Okay, I've set it, but not heavily. Like, I've moved some of those middle spots up a bit, but I haven't set it heavily yet. So, yeah.
Okay. Have you done the same sort of draft style? Do you or have you experimented with different strategies at all? And say the first 10 rounds, because that's really where it manifests itself the most, right?
Yeah, I'm interested to see. You can see your roster percentage. Right, with the NFBC, you can click on that and see your player shares or whatever it is. I'm interested to see that maybe after this one. I'll kind of take note of, especially the early round picks, if I'm ending up with the same ones. I've mixed it up. I've taken, the 2 times I picked first, I took Trey Turner. But the middle picks, I took a Bo Bichette and I took a Garrett Cole. So those are kind of different starts right from there. But I'm definitely noticing the same as last year. I'm noticing the speed early factor, and that it is challenging if you're going to. I know you and Scott. I listened to you and Scott's podcast from Sunday night, and it's challenging if you're going to try to squeeze in like a Vlad or a Freddie Freeman or something in the early rounds.
Sure, absolutely. It really would be. It's different. I have one league where I started with Vlad, and I think I drafted him maybe fifth.
Okay.
Because I wanted a team. Last year, I kind of got shut out on Vlad, except for one keeper league. So I kind of wanted him, but I got to tell you, I don't like building that way. I don't like not getting any speed with that first round pick. If I'm taking
where did you go immediately from there? So like, because you have no speed and you have no pitcher. Like if you start with Garrett Cole at that spot, you can at least say, well, okay, now my next couple picks, I'll get some speed. When you start Vlad, which I don't think is a bad plan, you just have to have a plan for that. Like, did you immediately go pitcher or did you immediately go speed after that?
Good question. So here's what I did. I went Vlad, Scherzer, Mullins, Anderson, Bogarts,
Okay.
Real Muto. So I had the one anchor is what I kind of did on this one here. Dansby later gets a little bit of speed. It's not enough.
Actually, you did fine. What you didn't do is draft a lot of pitchers at the beginning.
Right. I got my one anchor is what I did. I did 2 leagues where I kind of waited on starting pitchers and 2 leagues where I went heavy early starting pitching. And I think I like the pitching heavy pitching draft builds better.
Right.
In both of those cases, I started Jose Ramirez when I got the early pitchings. So I thought that was kind of interesting because, I had a bad anchor instead, one that's at a position that a lot of people are squeamish about waiting upon on third base and getting speed out of a position that most people aren't getting speed out of. So I kind of attacked it that way. And then I went like 4 pitchers in a row after that in both cases. So that's kind of interesting too. But yeah, I do have to I should write these up, or at least I should build my spreadsheet already. I'm a little behind on building that. Maybe I feel like I have time, unfortunately.
You do.
I saw the recent report today, and just they seem really far away from having a deal. So
yeah,
I've been kind of not that eager to go about doing that there. I don't know about you, but it's frustrating to hear about that.
I'm ignoring all that stuff. I'm just drafting these winter teams and just enjoying it. And I'll start sweating over that stuff in March if it's still an issue, which it might be.
Yeah, and that's I'm kind of doing that by doing these drafts.
Yeah,
and I've got an actual draft champion starting next Tuesday. It's the first pitch Arizona Speakers one that Jeff Zimmerman has won the last 2 years. So down with Zimmerman. But I looking forward to that, and I'm going to sign up for probably tomorrow for another 15 teamer just so I can get used to that size.
Yeah,
because I think it's definitely a different beast. Really quickly, and you start to see this, especially with the scarce categories, scarce positions, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I did think about doing a 15-teamer before we do the labor draft on the 22nd of February.
Right. We do have that too. That's looming.
Or either that or the labor draft itself is going to be my guinea pig for the other 15-teamers in March. So I'll have to decide if I'm going to do a 15-teamer before the labor draft. But you're right, it is a different beast. These 12-team rosters, if you're used to playing 15s, which I am, these 12-team rosters look so good. Like at the end, I'm like, wow, this team's amazing. And then I remember it's a 12-team, and I'm like, okay, got to raise your bar a bit here, Fred.
Right.
So
right.
Exactly. Going back to your Vlad idea, though, maybe that's the Vlad play this year. Because you can't get around the fact that you need speed, unless you're just not going to have speed. But you can't get around that. But maybe the Vlad play, the person who should draft Vlad is the person who maybe really likes some pitchers in the like rounds 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9 range. Just has some they really like this year. So they're very comfortable going Vlad, maybe an ace, and then 2 or 3 guys who can steal bases. Or somewhere in those first 5 rounds, they only get one pitcher because they like some of the pitchers in rounds 6 to 10 a lot. And that's cool. Like if you like those guys and you think that you've got pitchers in round 6, 7 that you can take that are going to outperform the guys we're all taking in round 3, 4, you could be right. And that would be the good play because I don't think Vlad's going to let you down. It's just how do you build a team around him?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true. I did do my very first draft. I waited on starting pitchers a little bit, and I did that on purpose. Uh, Under the notion, a lot of people have been talking about starting pitching is deep. So let's put that to test a little bit there. I drafted fifth out of this one as well. This is so I went Toronto in the first round. That was always the plan, right? No, I
Right.
went Bo Bichette there, and I went followed up. And I kind of got lucky. I felt like I got Mookie Betts at 2.8 in a 12
Okay.
teamer. I think that fell too far. And Starling Marte at 3.5. So I really kind of got my speed addressed early in that one. It was different
Yep.
than most. Hater in the fourth. I don't think that happens anymore, by the way.
No.
We'll talk about that in a second. Riley, I finally got my first starting pitcher in round 6 with Lance Lynn. I didn't take my second starting pitcher till round 10. And I went old and boring with my starting pitchers. And I was by design. Chris Bassett, Sonny Gray, Adam Wainwright. I took a chance with Severino, but Ryu is in the 16th round. Talk about a guy who's gotten devalued a lot. Uh, I'm not sure if I agree with how far he's slipping. I took a chance on like Strasburg in the 24th. Finally took a young guy, Patino, in round 25. I
Okay.
love him. Now I feel pretty good about it there, Fred. I'm not going to lie. I like that build. I got Hader and Romano as my top 2 closers. Threw in a Joe Barlow. I got a little soft spot for Joe Barlow. I know you understand that one there since you and
Yep.
I were bidding on him together
Yep.
in labor against not together, but against each other in labor.
Yep.
Don't want to imply that we're in cahoots because we clearly are not, even though we made a trade with each other. But I feel like that's puts me in a pretty good spot. It might even have been overkill by going with Barlow, only because in a 12 teamer, you probably need about 75 to 80 saves to get 80th percentile. In a 15 teamer, last year you only needed 70 saves to get to 80th percentile, which that's Hater and that's Hater and Romano if things go right. Now that's a big if is doing a lot of work there, but you start off with 2 solid closers, that might be all you need.
Oh, absolutely. And remember, like these are standalone leagues. We get very main event centric, I think, sometimes. So we start talking
Yep.
about being at like the 75th or 80th percentile. That's
Right.
more of that's more main event talk. Like in your league, like now your team that you just mentioned, like that team's built to maybe win saves or finish second in saves or something like
Well, and
that. But
it's the 50, so there's still an overall component, right? And so you
there
need to,
is. I
yeah,
never think about that too much in the 50s. I guess maybe I should, but I don't think about it as much in the 50s as I do in the main event. I mostly just think about winning the league. And if you're thinking about winning the
sure.
league, you could finish sixth in saves. If you do, that's fine. Or seventh or fourth or
Yeah,
whatever. They're all fine. As long if your team's good outside of that. So but you said you like the teams where you emphasize pitching a little more than that one early. You like them better,
Yeah,
you think.
I feel more. It's a feel thing, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
we're aggressively wrong in our feels, but I feel more comfortable with the results afterward. I feel like okay, well, I like what this one did. So I feel we'll pull a couple of them up here and we'll talk about it. But it's always nice to be able to go back and react to that. There, looking at a couple of I'll pull up the draft board with one of them here. Went picking out of the 3 spot. I went Jose Ramirez 3. Ramirez is a theme. I've had him a
Yep.
couple times. Wheeler, DeGrom, Iglesias, Sale, Gossman after that. There, heavy pitching. So
Wow.
yeah, it wasn't full Dalton Del Don, but it was 90% Del Don.
Yes. Yes. That is a pitching staff right there. Holy.
Yeah,
Yep.
and obviously you heard some pretty risky names there, but I
I
also
did.
felt you start with Wheeler, you have a lot of innings, you have your stud there, and Gossman's obviously a risk going in Toronto, but
But probably not an innings risk. I don't think
probably
Gossman's
not.
that
Yeah,
risky, period. But yeah,
I agree.
definitely
I
not
like
innings
him a
risk.
lot, and
Yeah.
I think 6 rounds a pretty darn good price for him, but that might just be me. But you're the Toronto guy. How do you feel about this? We haven't talked about
Yeah.
Toronto's machinations this offseason. How do you
Yeah,
feel about
I
Kevin
feel good
Gossman?
about that. The Toronto pitchers have generally been pretty solid from a real life. Like,
Hmm.
sorry, the pitchers that Toronto gets are meeting our fantasy expectations. Like when Barrios came over to Toronto last year, he pitched just as well as he was pitching for the Twins. When Ryu came over from the Dodgers, like you already talked about him, everybody said the sky was falling, right? When Ryu came over from the Dodgers, and there's no way he'll survive in the American League East, and there's no way he'll survive in Rogers Center. But he pitched really well that year, and he was pitching fine last year until later in the year. I don't think he's a fantasy stud because the strikeout rate's low and things like that, and he is starting to get up there in years. But the bottom line is, he came into Toronto, he worked with Pete Walker, their pitching coach, he did fine. I think Toronto is a fine place for. Sorry, I think Toronto's had plenty of success, which makes them a solid place for pitchers to go. It's not San Fran. I get it. It's not going to the Dodgers. I think Godsman will be fine. He's not going to maybe do quite as good as he would have been with the Giants if he had gone back there, but he's going to be fine. I think that was a fine pick.
Thank you. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
So there you go. I like that build. I feel I've got a lot of Ks and I've got a lot of upside. Obviously, DeGrom and Sale on the same team. That's probably a little extra risky, but I like the prices on both. Maybe that's I wouldn't take him in the second round before having any other starters, but having one starter in there already, I like it.
Absolutely. I did take DeGrom in one of them on the 2-3 turn as my ace. I took Trey Turner first, all the way back to me. A lot of pitchers had gone. I felt like DeGrom was what was left. I took him. I really did some thinking about how many innings would DeGrom have to throw to justify pick 24. He's so good. Like, let's assume he's still DeGrom, low 2s ERA, whip that's not even close to 1. I think he might only have to throw 135, 140 innings to justify that. Everything else on top of that is a bonus. So, and again, like if you are thinking about the overall component, or if you're just thinking about winning your league, that's the kind of pick that wins a league. Like if DeGrom pitches all season, you get 180 innings out of DeGrom as the 7th starter off the board. If DeGrom throws 180 innings this year, he'll be the number 1 pitcher.
Yeah,
he's so good. So
yeah, he is. He's just a different level. It's just there's a huge if there.
Huge if factor.
I'm more inclined to pull this off in a 12. I'm more inclined to do this like in an FBC 50, a non-pickup league, I guess, than I would be, say, in the main event, which is kind of, I don't know. I might change my tune on that even too. But by the time we get the main event, we should have spring training. We should have some velocity numbers. We should have something, anything. Instead, today's February 1st, and we have 0 news for 2 months on almost every single player in the player pool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this weird thing. I mean, there's been a couple things that have leaked here and there, but for the most part, it's been a complete, utter blank slate of news. Radio silence, which means all this ADP that's being built. And I've always been doing my ADP since December 1st. It's all based on our projections, people drafting. And of course, there's some momentum. And you hear that the baseball Twitter cycle talking about closers, for instance, and how they're getting pushed up. You've seen the ADPs follow that. But, we don't have actual things that are changing. No signings, no like injury updates. It's crazy. I mean, it's all this fresh powder still.
Yeah, it's weird. There's no movement for sure. I mean, in a normal offseason during January, we would see a bunch of players sign that would push certain players' values up, certain other players down. We would be talking about how the market's moving on certain guys. February 1st, managers would be rolling in to spring training sites. They'd have some comments on closers and things like that. We just don't have any of that. So I think the ADP market is sitting pretty stagnant right now. Like you said, the closers moved up a bit. I think for obvious reasons with these draft champions leagues. I'm interested to see if the closers move back down when we go to the fab leagues, because and I know Phil DeSalt mentioned this, I think on I think it was with the podcast he did with James last week. Part of the reason I think it was that one, the part of the reason that these closers are up in these draft champions leagues is the lack of waivers. Whatever you draft among relief pitchers, that's all you're going to get for saves. And so a lot of the saves that are going to be used in fab leagues are just going to end up sitting on the waiver wire the entire season in these draft champions leagues. That obviously takes the possible 40 saves from Josh Hader, 35 saves from Josh Hader, and makes them more valuable. So I'm interested to see, but we also know that pitching gets pushed up in NFBC leagues in March, typically.
Right.
But it's already pretty up, especially the closers. So I'm interested to see if the closers come back down, because when you get into a fab league, like there's not much profit potential from the pick you make once you start taking Josh Hader in the 3rd round. And I'm not against doing it in these DCs, but now your chances of Josh Hader outperforming the pick you used has become quite small.
Dude,
So
you
like
have to outperform in the 3rd round.
you definitely don't. But like say your Joe Barlow pick, that could outperform. Like Joe Barlow,
Sure,
if he could
of
get you
course.
28 saves, that would be huge. When you get into the main event, some people might be looking to nail some of those later picks so that they can get more studs at other positions.
Of
I don't know.
course.
I mean, or looking to work the waiver wire and think that they can work the waiver wire to get some saves that way. And some of them will be able to work the waiver wire to get some saves that way. So I'm interested to see if the closer prices come back down in March. I really don't know, because I've never seen them this high before.
No, I haven't either. And it's and I think it's a unique year. I think it's because of the lockout, because of the dwindling number of teams that have
Yes.
rock solid closers to begin with, and that Craig Kimbrell's still a White Sox, but he's almost going to certainly get dealt. That'd be one thing that resolves itself. By the way, Craig Kimbrell's price is not that cheap. He's always going in the top 10
No.
rounds. Some people are drafting him as if he's closing still.
Yeah, or at least sitting on the fence on him for sure. Like it's like people are drafting him as though he's probably going to get traded, but they're not like all in. Like they won't take him where they'll take like Ryan Presley or something like that, or Aroldis Chapman. Like they're not taking him that high. Like if he's already been traded, I think he'd go even higher. I feel like people are like that with a lot of the guys right now, like Blake Trinan. He's being drafted kind of as though he's their Dodgers closer, but
Well,
I think
yeah.
everybody's a little worried that Kenley comes back or something. So Trinan's being drafted like in this middle region, not where
He's being
will be
drafted
drafted
later. I think he's being
not where he
drafted a
would be
little
drafted
later.
if Kenley was back. If Kenley was back, he'd go even later.
Yeah. Like I'm pulling up the ADP on Trinan, and he's 175. So even in a 15 teamer, he's not in the top 10 rounds.
Right,
Kenley is getting drafted as a closer though.
Right, but that Trinan at 175, like that's super cheap if he ends up being the Dodgers closer.
For sure.
But it's also
100%.
but it's super expensive if he's just the Dodgers eighth. And if Kenley comes back and Trinan's a guy who gets you 5 wins and 5 saves, now that's a bad pick. So I think there's just these guys that people are hedging their bets on,
right?
Because they're not sure. I know you and Scott talked about like the Giants relievers, I can say the Twins relievers. Like there's just all these teams right now that we have no clarity on, and nobody knows what to do with them. So what some people are doing is just drafting Josh Hader in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Just to avoid having to deal with that.
3rd round, 2nd round. 1-2 turn in some cases. Now,
yes, absolutely.
Him and Hendricks too. By the way, Hendricks isn't getting discounted at all, despite the presence of Kimberl, which I find interesting, because what if they don't pull off a trade? It's not lock, stock certain that they pull off a trade. I know they picked up his option with the idea they're going to trade him, because really having a setup man at that price is not cost efficient. But what if they decide, hey, we're just going to have a lights out nails bullpen, have both these guys? I know Kimberl wasn't that guy last year with the White Sox, but he still, I think a lot of people presume he still has those skills. I mean, Hendricks could lose a few save ops. It's still possible.
Yeah, it is possible. They did use Hendricks like really heavily last year, even after Kimberl was there. So I feel pretty good about Hendricks. But yeah, you're right. We'll see. These are all the uncertainties that we're playing with, and that's what's leading to people just saying, identifying Emmanuel Clase or Jordan Romano or Ryan Presley or Aroldis Chapman and saying, okay, these guys have closer jobs. I don't really see any issues. Whatever. I'll just close my eyes and pay for them earlier than I normally would, because I don't want to deal with this. But there will be some people in these DCs who played the game and won, who didn't take any of those guys and loaded up on players at other positions and then nailed a couple guys they had hunches on in round, like Blake Trinan or one of the Giants guys or one of the Twins guys or someone like that, or a Scott Barlow. And they nail some of these guys in double-digit rounds, and it works. And they get the right guys, and they get their 70 saves, 80 saves without having to use any picks in the first 10 rounds. And they use those other picks on better players. Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out.
Quickly, before we do our first ad note here, give me your fresh, red hot take on Jordan Romano. I know there was a thread going around started by Doug Dennis. Kenley Jansen versus Jordan Romano. Who do you got? And then tell me what you think the Jays are going to do otherwise.
Oh, I like Romano. I think he's a good pitcher. I like his demeanor. I don't think the Jays are in the market for another. I've read locally that the Jays are not in the market for another high-priced reliever. That's just not in the budget. The remaining Jays budget probably goes towards a Marcus Simeon replacement, who won't be like a high probably end guy, but like a medium guy, either to play second or third. And then maybe they try to deepen their starting pitching pool with someone who's okay. But I think any bullpen ads the Jays have from here on out will be cheap, kind of flyer type guys. I think grabbing Yimi Garcia is probably the biggest splash they'll make. But I think Romano's their closer, and if he's healthy, I think he'll be fine. I like him.
I look at the usage. I look at how they used him down the stretch when games really mattered.
Mm-hmm.
They used him as their lockdown closer.
Absolutely.
I'm with you. I am all aboard on Romano. If Jansen re-signs with the Dodgers, he will close. I'm not worried about that. But because I don't think they signed him to be that bullpen ace guy, and I don't think they signed him to be a setup guy. I think they signed him to close if they sign him, and I think that's still his most likely location. By the way,
I think anywhere Jansen goes, he'll close.
I agree.
He has that reputation, I guess. Like, I think anywhere he goes, he'll close.
Yeah.
I think he's too expensive and too good. Like, he's not too good. He's too expensive for someone to bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, Alex Colomé, he might get signed by some team and close. Like he might, like a cheap team, like a team who's just looking for, he's got a lot of closing experience. He's not that great. He's not going to be some sort of bullpen ace, but he can save games. We're only going to pay him a couple million, a few million, whatever. He could do that. But then Colomé could also get signed by a good team and just be a guy in their bullpen because he's not going to cost a ton. Jansen,
or it could be he could sign with that mediocre team as a closer and lose the job too. That's still also a possibility.
Totally.
I might be like projecting from what happened last year. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. But Jansen, I think I feel very, very confident that Jansen starts the year as some team's closer.
All right. I tend to agree with you on that one there. Yeah. And honestly, I don't mind having either guy as one of my closers. So there's that. Before we continue talking about some early draft trends and some ADP, quick note from our friends at WinBet. There's one thing we appreciate here at RotoWire. It's making good decisions, and even more so, making the right decision. Listen up, folks. I have an incredible offer for you with RotoWire's newest partner, WinBet, the premier digital casino and sportsbook app. WinBet is now the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's fantasy podcast. WinBet brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more are at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into WinBet's digital casino and take a spin on roulette, double down in blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at Baccarat. WinBet is currently available in 8 states. That's right, 8! Now we're up to 8. Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana. Welcome, Louisiana. Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia, while rapidly expanding. At WinBet, the possibilities are limitless. WinBet is currently offering all RotoWire listeners a risk-free bet up to $500 on your first wager. Download WinBet now. That's WYNNBET. WinBet, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's fantasy podcasts. Here with Fred Zinke, I'm Jeff Erickson, here to discuss a lot of early ADP trends. And Fred, I heard that you are just flabbergasted, flummoxed, just bamboozled by Jordan Alvarez's ADP. Currently, if you go by ADP as of December 1st through February 1st, Jordan Alvarez checks in at pick 27. Average ADP is like, it's ranked 27. Average pick is about 31 with a range of 13 to 55. Too early, too late? What's your reaction here?
I'm going to get burned on this because he is a really good player, but I'm not feeling this early pick for a guy who produces no steals unless he's like Vlad Guerrero good. And Alvarez so far isn't Vlad Guerrero good. So I just, as you look through the ADP, so take where Alvarez is, how many players above Alvarez produce no steals. And Alvarez is going to produce no steals. Like his over under on steals this year would be 0.5. He has 1 career steal. Like who above Alvarez gets you no steals?
Basically Vlad. I mean,
Yeah, that's it. Like even
yeah.
Freddie Freeman will get you like 8 or so, like he did last year. Like
Right.
he should get you a few. I'm not
Devers,
giving Vlad. I know
Devers
Vlad
gets
got
4 or
but
5, maybe.
yeah.
Trout might get you 0. Trout is, and I know you're going to talk about him too, but that's it. That's the list.
Yeah, so I just feel like I know Alvarez is a really good young player. I just he has so just some thoughts on him, like, and I kind of downplayed him last year and got burned on some of this, but um, the 0 steals has to be a huge factor as far as getting him into your draft plan. Even looking after him. So if you look at the ADP list after him, hitters I see, this is from January 10th on. Hitters I see going after him. Teoscar can steal some bases. Marcus Simeon can steal some bases. I'm not counting Sal Perez because that's a whole different strategy. If you're going to get a catcher early, like basically hardly anyone's getting steals from their catchers, so that's different. Tim Anderson steals bases. Story steals bases. I guess Judge is a little later, and then you get into like Matt Olson and some guys maybe later. You get into Pete Alonso, who aren't going to steal bases. It's really early with Alvarez, I think, to get a 0 steal guy. Also with Alvarez, are his knees like for sure no longer a problem?
Not for sure. Nothing's for sure in life, but
I just like at this time last year, we had like major concerns about his knees. He's a big guy. He had played 2 games the previous year, and things went well. Like with him, he played 144 games last year with his knees. But like, are we sure that this knee thing is not going to crop up again? I don't know.
No, you obviously you can't be sure about this.
Right.
I'll tell you what. Build matters with him though too.
Right.
Here's the in my 4 drafts. Here's how the Alvarez team started their teams. First one: Tatis, Alvarez, Judge. I think that's it's interesting. And Goldie 4.
Yeah, they had no pitching, so okay.
Right, Freddie Peralta is their first starter. It's an interesting build. They got Bryant, Reyes, Votto. They got Brandon Lau. Not a whole lot of steals on this team, but they do have Tatis, so it's interesting. But yeah, it's light on speed. Next one. This one I think is interesting, but also it's not super heavy on speed. Ohtani, DeGrom, Alvarez, Bogarts, Lindor. Eloy in the 6th. Oh, that's nice.
So another team that went really light on pitching early.
Yeah, but Ohtani can be used as a pitcher though too.
Yeah. Are you going to?
I think on select 2 start weeks you might. Although given what we know what happened last year with all the changes that happened, especially with the Angels, it's kind of dangerous. Okay, here's the third one. I think they addressed the stolen bases pretty well here. Trey Turner, Alvarez, Teoscar to start. And then later on added India and Grisham as later stolen base guys.
Where is their pitchers? Did they
Robbie Ray, Musgrove, Rodon and Bassett are the top 4 starters through round 12.
All right.
I think they got there. They even got a closer in Gallegos, probably. Gallegos is tricky because the Cardinals, it's not like they've named him.
Yep.
But Gallegos and Trinan are his top 2 relievers in this one here. I think that's an interesting build. But you know what? That one at least addresses the speed. I'm okay with that a little bit. And then finally, Trey Turner at pick 3, first of all, useful.
Wow.
Woodruff, Alvarez, Nola, Lindor. So
that one I like the best, I think.
That's a pretty good start. That's a pretty good start.
I think if you're I'm not really into grabbing guys in the first. I think I've just decided I'm not really into grabbing guys in probably the first 4 rounds that are neither pitchers nor can produce like at least a few steals. I might make an exception for Vlad if I had a plan, because I just think Vlad is such a special hitter. Like, who can, like I don't know. I'm not feeling it with Alvarez. I feel like he should be another round at least later where you build up some of those other things first. This is a very roto-centric viewpoint.
Sure.
Be clear, because I've downplayed Alvarez before and gotten burned for it on Twitter. I do not think that Alvarez is a bad player. He's a very good player. He has a career 948 OPS. I don't think, unless his knees act up, I don't think he's going to like seriously let anyone down. I just don't like the roster build, but I'd probably rather take Alvarez where he's going than Mike Trout where he's going, if you want to segue.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not going to take Trout in the first round on a 15-teamer. I take it. That's just off the board for you.
I would not take Trout in the second round of a 15-teamer either.
Okay.
I might take him in the third round.
You're not going to get him then. Okay.
I'm sure not. Yeah. And I think the answer, like my answer, I do. Okay. So again, I get it. Like Mike Trout could play 155 games this year and be the best pure hitter. I don't know if he could be the best fantasy player anymore. Maybe. I guess Vlad was last year. So I guess Trout could be if everything broke his way, right? Because Vlad finished hot number one on some player raters last year. So I guess if you can do it with 4 steals, then I guess Trout could do it. But I just think with Trout, like the steals are gone, right? Like you don't think they're coming back, do you?
I don't. I mean, although it's funny, sprint speed was still like 95th, 96th percentile, if I recall correctly. I mean, it's still like over the moon fast. He's still super fast. It's just so fragile. And that is going to, he's hurt himself sliding while stealing bases before.
It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, given the way his recent seasons have gone with injuries, it just doesn't seem like they'll have him steal. He has 3 steals in the last 2 years. He has 3 steals in 91 games. So, like, it seems like this is like a 5-steal guy if he plays a lot this season. The other thing about Trout that's interesting is, at least the last couple years, like last year he played so little last year, but the year before 281, the year before 291, like we haven't seen recently the 310s type batting averages from him. So again, like Trout, if Trout hits 290 or 295 this year, that's really good, but it's not like what we did see from him in some of his peak years where we were seeing like batting average. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons of playing all season hitting over 310. There's a big difference between 310 and 290.
Yep, that's right.
As far as fantasy value goes.
It's 20 points.
Yeah. But my biggest reason that I'm not into Trout is the injuries.
Yeah.
So I just.
But 20 points at 600 at bats is huge. 20 points.
Huge.
If he gets
absolutely
400, not as much. But yeah. That unfortunately.
Right.
That's
So if
also...
you told so I do get that Mike Trout's the best baseball player of his generation. But if you told me that I was going to draft someone who's had a lot of injuries in recent seasons, missed most of last season, and is going to, let's just say you said that he's going to hit about 290 and not steal bases, why would I want to take that guy in the second round?
Yeah, I mean, you got to get 50 homers. You got to really
or something, at least 40, probably in triple digits runs and RBIs. But you need him to play for that. You need him to be healthy. If I fully believe Trout could be healthy all season, then I think he's worth a second round pick. But I'm not really that confident in that.
At some point in his career, Trout's going to go Chipper Jones on us and be healthy for 3 years in a row, and we're all going to feel, and we're all going to be like, okay, I faded him. And then, okay, I'll push him back up. And then wham, he's going to get hurt again once we push him back up to the first round. But
I hope so. I will say, and I know
he's a special player. I want to see it, but yeah.
I was going to say, I know that this comparison is a hitter and a pitcher, but I thought the same thing about Clayton Kershaw at one point. I thought he's the best pitcher of his generation. So 2016 he struggled with injuries. 2017 he struggled with injuries. But I kept thinking like, no, but he's still a really good pitcher when he pitches. So he's going to turn this around. He's going to have another 210 inning season, which actually was a thing 5 years ago. And we've all kind of downgraded him, but it's going to happen. It has never happened. I know it's a pitcher and Trout's a hitter, but it never. Clayton Kershaw is like his 20s are some of the best 20s generation, we've seen in our lifetime, but in his 30s, it hasn't come around. He hasn't come around from a health perspective.
That's right.
So
where does he end up, by the way? Still a free agent. So he signed back with the Dodgers, signs with the Rangers, because he's from Texas?
Yeah, I say not the Dodgers. I think the Rangers is a decent guess. My guess is going to be not the Dodgers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. I like
Yeah,
it.
but anyways,
Bold
I
call
don't know
from.
if you think maybe I'm crazy on Trout, but when I run my projections, and I know you do that too, and run my SGPs with my projections, and I know a lot of people do that too. Like Trout doesn't come in anywhere near his ADP, so I wonder the people who are taking him, like what numbers are they putting in that are getting him to that number where he becomes a viable like first round pick, like I have him in my projections so far behind someone like Freddie Freeman, who's also like a pretty low steal guy. But I guess the answer is they're just deciding that they're going to put in a full season of games for him.
Yeah.
If I did that, he would move way. Like if I put in 610 plate appearances or something, he would 630 plate appearances. He would move up way up.
By the way, Freddie Freeman is the opposite of Trout. He always shows up higher than I expect. And,
Yep.
and I feel comfortable drafting. But then I look, oh, he had 8 stolen bases. Oh, he had 10. Oh, he had 8. Like, okay, at some point it might go away. But we thought Goldschmidt was done running. And guess what? He ran again last year. It's like sometimes they don't go, they come back even too. It's interesting.
Yeah, and Freddie Freeman's an interesting guy in that he can have a few different paths to, like he can have a year where he hits 320 and really pushes his value to you through the batting average, or he can have the year where he hit 38 home runs, or the year where he hit 34 home runs and he really pushes his value to you through the power.
Right.
So he's always good at both, but sometimes one of those two skills can swing a little bit more. He swings a little more some years towards batting average or towards power. I don't know. I just with Trout, like I keep wondering what numbers are other people putting in their spreadsheets that are making him pick. I think his ADP since January 10th is 13th overall. Like what numbers are they putting in? But I guess the answer is different than me. Is they're putting in like 550 at bats or something, which he hasn't done since 2016.
Right.
He
That's
hasn't had
right.
500 at bats in a season since 2016.
I'll be honest, I goosed mine up to 472. Maybe I need
There's
to.
no way. So there's no way I would assume if you've got him at 472 at bats and you have him with hardly any steals, like there's no way he's anywhere near his ADP.
He's a second round guy in my with my
Okay.
with that, but yeah, we're talking like probably 19 to 20 or so. I got to goose a couple of things on my SGPs actually still to kind of alter that a little bit, but yeah, I have him with 4 bags also, so he's not a
Yeah, I
zero.
think that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
294 and 4 bags. So that's probably an optimistic projection. I did goose the playing time a little bit. Maybe it's a little hope and faith. I might be that guy. Hope and faith isn't a category though, so maybe I should be tamp that down
No,
just a little bit.
I think that projection's fine. I think I wouldn't take him in the second round. There'll just be players I like better. I think in the second round,
Mhm.
I guess if it was late second round, like I'd have to think about it for the upside. But there'll just be players I like better. But I think to get him up to that point in my SGPs, I'd have to really push it. I'd have to really push. I'd have to push him up to like 40 home runs.
Yeah.
And
I'll
I
say
just
this. I
yeah
will say this. The number of stolen bases that you need to gain your precious category points are fewer than it was before. Uh, you know, Last year, for instance, I'm pulling up my article to give you the numbers on this here, but 2018 to get 80th percentile in stolen bases, you needed 137 in the main event, 15-team main event.
mhm.
Last year was 121, 16 fewer. Fred, that's all of a sudden you're needing. You don't need 2020 guys. You need 25. You need 25-15. You need obviously you can't. Not everybody in your roster is going to get you 15. You got catchers. You got you can't find 14 hitters that are going to average 10 stolen bases, but you don't need that either. You need to average about 8 stolen bases per position now.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. You definitely need less of them. It's just even needing less. Like I'm finding that they are pretty hard to find.
Yeah, they are. They are.
There
That's the
are
flip
some
side is
guys.
they're a lot harder to find. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, there are some guys as we go through, like there are some guys in the middle rounds who can chip in like 10, 12, something like that, who I don't mind. But but you're not finding anyone. What's interesting, I think, is now it's like you're not finding anyone in the middle rounds really who can be your savior if you've really fallen behind the pack in steals.
Right. And
Like
your
if you've
late round targets too. I mean,
Yeah.
I use Nicky Lopez as the example. You need to have them active when they're going on their run. They need to be, because Nicky Lopez isn't hitting for any power. He's a guy that, for better or worse, may not may not, be active every week for you on your roster. So you need to turn around. You need to be able to time that market well. And Lopez did like 10 of his stolen bases in a 2-week span. And he was probably on people's benches or I think even in a 1-week span. And he might have been on some people's benches there, or dropped and then picked up again after that week. And then he didn't do nearly as much after that.
That's right. And yeah, like you said, to get his steals, you need to leave him in his no power in your lineup. And you can do the late steal darts. You can go for Andres Jimenez and hope that this is the year that, he clicks in Cleveland after it didn't really happen last year. And you can go for those. And those, like one of those guys will probably turn out. But we used to be able to find these guys in the middle rounds who could get you 25 steals, 30 steals, and you knew they were probably going to play, but they're just not there anymore. Like, I find as we go through the middle rounds, if you can get a 15 steal guy, you're like, oh, that's great. Like, other than Miles Straw, if you're going through the middle rounds and you can get find a guy who you think can get you 10 to 15, you're like, oh, that's really good. I'll take that. So it's like those steals that you do need, although it's not as many, you do need most of them in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Miles Straw. I have him in 2 leagues.
Okay.
And I don't like taking him. I don't like taking that type of player.
I know you don't.
But I do think his on base skills are better than that some of the others that have competed. I don't think he's, for instance, I think I've always said, don't take Delano DeShields Jr. Don't take Malik Smith. That was, I think, the go-to example all the time of steals only goofs.
Yeah.
Straw, I think, has a firmer hold on playing time. And it's also been a case there. Usually that's where I got Straw on my pitching heavy teams to try to catch up on steals. I also got Tommy Edmond on those teams too. Both of those teams. I had Straw and Edmond to try to catch up some on stolen bases. Like it or hate it?
I don't mind it. I'm cool with Tommy Edmond. I have no shares of either of those 2 players. I'm kind of always in on Edmond, but I usually have a decent steals base by then. So then I just don't. I just draft like a better hitter. But I'm always in on him. He's always like near the top of my list when he goes. Straw isn't. But I've got nothing against him. So like Straw has some good qualities for just kind of staying in the lineup. Like, he's a pretty good on base guy. Like, his career on base is 343. That keeps you in the lineup, right? Like 343 and you can steal bases. That's going to keep you in the lineup. I think Straw is going to stay in the lineup. I'm not really worried about that. He's also someone who's always been a base stealer. So it's not like these steals came out of nowhere or anything. I think that's fine. With Straw, it's just going to be a matter of lineup position. If you get him as a leadoff hitter, that's good. You can get 85, 90 runs scored. Because he's not a good hitter really overall, like, there's no power there. If he ended up hitting 8th or 9th, and we know how guys like Miles Straw go, they either hit leadoff or they hit 8th or 9th.
Well, it's a good thing that Cleveland's never screwed us with players like that in the past. Oh, yeah. I mean, Oscar Mercado, Andres Jimenez, come on down. Yeah. What have I signed myself up for? Oh,
so that would be my concern with Straw, is that you end up he ends up hitting 8th or 9th, and you get your 30 steals, but on the way to getting your 30 steals, you get like 45 RBIs and like 60 runs scored and no homers, or and it's just a drag everywhere else. And you did have to use like a significant pick on him, not a high pick, but a significant one. So Edmond, I felt a little better about. I don't know if I'm just a little more biased towards Edmond. There's like a little more pop there than there is with Straw, right? Like, he had 11 homers last year. He has some homers every season. So I kind of like that aspect of him, but he's not really a better hitter than Straw. In fact, they had the same OPS last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he doesn't walk, right? Like Straw does.
Right. So I could have 2 guys that don't walk, and that should be fine. Totally fine.
I think, but these are the trade-offs. If you feel good about these guys, then you could, like you said, like, you could not have steals early. You could get guys like Vlad or Yordan Alvarez or Mike Trout if you really like some of those guys and you really want them, and get some good pitchers, and you're going to tie your steals up in Edmond and Straw. And if you believe in them and you're right, perfect. Edmond and Straw combined can get you 60 steals. You're going to be well on your way to a good steals finish, and you've got some stud hitters who are great at other things that you like. So like it can work.
It can
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will work.
I don't know.
I want to get your opinion on 3 players who've moved teams. But before that, real quick, a note from our friends at Thrive and the Blue Wire Network. Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is an exciting player prop fantasy contest. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research that Fred Zinke does every week and focus on only the top tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up for Thrive Fantasy today and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Here's how you claim your free RotoWire subscription. 1, visit rotowire.com/thrive. 2, deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. 3, play in your first paid contest and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Big thanks to Thrive and also to the Blue Wire Network for hosting our podcast all season long here. All right, Fred, interested or not, I'm going to give you the player, and the ADP. You gave me 2 of them already, so you're already well prepared. So I'm not surprising with any of them. Third one I'm going to surprise you with, but you won't be surprised really. Marcus Simeon is now an XJ. He is now a Texas Ranger. We know that's not as good of a ballpark to hit in. We know it can't possibly be as good of a lineup as he had in Toronto. And he's coming off a career year. His ADP is 32 from December 1st on, qualifies at second and short, plays a lot of games, usually is good for 10 to 15 stolen bases. Are you paying that price? Fred Zinke, what's your answer?
No, I don't think so. Great story last year. I like Marcus Simeon a lot. I don't think he'll be a total flop in Texas, but I really, really hate that lineup outside of a couple players. How about this? He goes right kind of side by side with his former teammate, Teoscar Hernandez. I would rather have Teoscar, who still gets all the benefits from hitting for the Blue Jays, wouldn't you?
I completely would. And I think, I'm Team Teoscar. I have a lot of love in my heart for him. The only thing that's in favor of Simeon is the positions. And, middle infield, second and short. Especially because Simeon's not going to get you batting average either. And that's the other thing. And they might go way down, if it's in Texas. It's possible. But Teoscar is probably over his skis a little bit batting average wise. Anyhow, he'll probably drop back some. But Teoscar's 2 spots ahead of him. I'd rather have Teoscar too. I'm with you on that one.
I'd rather, I'm not that against Simeon. Also, you mentioned the positions. Now, he is shortstop eligible, so that helps a bit. But I find the second base eligibility, I don't know about you, but for me this year, there are so many second basemen that I liked throughout the draft. There's second basemen early that I like, whether it's Trey Turner or Whit Merrifield or something like that. There's second basemen through the middle rounds that I like. Jonathan India and players such as that. And then there's late round second baseman. There are second basemen all the time that I like. I find all of my DC teams are ending up with like 6 guys who are second base eligible.
Yeah. I've every once in a while I find myself scrambling to kind of catch up at second base, but I think it's also because although those are the non-Edmond teams, obviously, but where I'm taking that guy, but I'm looking at my roster here on this one. Where did I take my first second baseman? It must be because he's multi-eligible. But I did go Anderson Bogarts in a league, so I waited on second base. Abraham Toro is a second baseman.
Yeah,
this is kind of Adam Frazier, Nico Horner, baseman. Eduardo Escobar. I'm kind of messing around on that. Excuse me, in that position a little bit there on that league. So it's interesting. I have found myself waiting on that position a lot. I'm not comfortable waiting at third. So I'm going to go at second a little bit there. Something always has to give, right? And looks like second base is it for me.
I'm finding the same thing at third, where if I don't get one of the studs, who knows after that? Like when and where I address third, I haven't had to reach or what I feel like is reaching for third, but I'm definitely, what I'm noticing too in the DCs that's just different from like a fab league. In a fab league, if I just get one third baseman that I like, then sure, that's fine. Like I can play the waiver wire. Guys are gonna turn up. I think it was just a year ago, everyone was talking about how deep third base was, and then now it's changed. So once we get to fab leagues, I don't think I'll overrate that. Like as long as I have a third baseman I like and then a couple first basemen I like, that would be fine. In the DCs where I should have on my roster probably about 3, 4, 5 guys who are third base eligible. I'm struggling to find that without reaching.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
unique problem to that league setup, but I'm struggling to find that without just reaching for guys, who I don't really want, and because you need to build that depth in those leagues.
Right.
You can grab Manny Machado, but like you need other guys on your roster who are third base eligible. Like unless you're just going to wing it with him all season and hope he never gets hurt.
That's true. I mean, Manny Machado is a pretty good guy to bet on not getting hurt.
He has been for sure.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, the injury bug does hit lots of people. So, I mean, it's hard to say, he's not injury prone. He's healthy. He's always healthy. I mean, yeah, it comes for everyone at some point in time.
Yeah.
All right. Next guy on the list, Corey Seeger. He's shortstop number 12, at least among shortstop eligible players. Not every one of these players is going to be used as shortstop, but to your point, there's 5 guys above him that are shortstop eligible that are also second base eligible, which is interesting. Pick 79, average pick is 79, 78th ranked player. Where are you on Corey Seager?
Yeah, not really feeling him either. This is a negative, but this is becoming next week. We're gonna have to do guys Fred likes or something like that because I feel like this has been a negative podcast for me. But I mean,
send me your grids. Send me your grids, and I'm gonna mine that data, and I'm gonna pin you down on a couple of guys there.
With Corey Seager, I think if you asked just like I think if you asked a lot of fantasy baseball managers, even like people who are kind of into it, like how many home runs Corey Seager typically hits in a season, I don't think you get the right numbers. I guess he did hit a lot last season in that shortened season, but typically like 16. I guess he was hurt last year. I don't know. I'm just not feeling Corey Seager. Maybe I should give him a little more credit. He doesn't steal bases. I don't like Texas's lineup. It's not a great park to hit, and I know he's not leaving a great park either. He hasn't been ever a big power guy. I guess he was in the shortened season. Do we count that? Do we count that?
I mean, it's so hard to do that. I mean, he hit 15 homers in 60 games or in 52 games even. That's messing up my projections a little bit now that I'm looking at there, because I got him for 26 homers, and he's only hit that once when he played 157 games in his first full season. So maybe I'm a little high. I don't know.
He falls a little bit. This is basically my Mike Trout argument all over again, and just with a lesser player, but still a really good player. But
no speed. Yep.
No speed. He could hit for average for sure, but no speed. Seager goes way later because his power is fine, but not special. But I mean, if you he did well from an injury perspective in the shortened season. But if you look outside of that, 95 games last year, 134 in 2019, 26 in 2018, 145, which is fine in 2017. Like he just has struggled to stay healthy. He's on a team where it's like, I like Simeon and Seeger. Is there any other hitter in that lineup you like?
Not really. No.
I mean, none. I don't like any. Like, I don't like Adolis Garcia. I don't like Nathaniel Lowe. I know some people like him.
I don't hate Lowe, but I'm not high on Lowe either.
When I start evaluating him as like a first baseman,
I'm going to cheat a little bit on your question. I like Josh Jung.
Okay.
But he's not going to make his debut until somewhere midway into the season, though, too. So it's a cheat there. But I think when he gets the call, I think he's going to be very good. But I think the ballpark will hurt him too.
Yeah, and if Seager's not going to hit for a lot of power, then he's going to be dependent on his teammates to help him produce runs and RBIs. Right? If you could go to Texas and just hit 43 home runs, you can collect a lot of runs and RBIs just all by yourself.
Right.
He's dependent on his teammates to be part of rallies with him if he's going to hit a lot of singles and doubles. And I mean, maybe he will hit 25 home runs or something like that. I don't know, 25 home runs with no steals. The other thing is he does. Maybe I'm too steal centric on this episode of the podcast, but where are you going to get your steals from? It's not from catcher usually, and it's not from corner infield. So it probably needs to be from your middle infielders, like not primarily, but they need to contribute. So if he's not going to get you any, then you're definitely going to need someone on your team from that in those middle infield spots that gets you some. So I think there's a roster build maybe where you like getting Seeger, and I get that he's a good player. I don't know. I just do not. I feel like that Texas lineup still stinks. Like even with him and Simeon, I think it's still a bad lineup.
I agree. If you squint, you can see an upside for Willie Calhoun.
Yep.
Maybe, yeah.
Like Cole Calhoun could, if he stays healthy, could hit 30 home runs. Like he does have power, but there's just a lot of guys who like they'd be fine if they're like your seventh hitter or your eighth hitter on your team, but maybe sixth. But there's just no one else to go in the. I feel like on that Texas team, there's just no one else to go in the top 5.
Right.
Maybe I'm spoiled as a Blue Jays fan.
Like 2 hitters to take the leap, basically, to make that a more well-rounded lineup.
Right.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Nelson Cruz could walk through that door. He's a free agent.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
Homecoming for Nelly. Who says no? I mean, honestly, that's not a bad fit.
I assume Nelson Cruz takes any job offer right now that's a full-time playing time. Like anyone who's gives him a reasonable salary and a full-time playing time per year, he takes that offer.
Yeah, I wouldn't say any. I don't think he goes back to the Twins, for instance. Don't think he goes to the Orioles. Although, can you see? And the thing is, we haven't even talked about that ballpark. It's definitely not going to be the same in Camden Yards this year. You saw that. They're moving those left field fences back and up, both.
You're dropping Ryan Mountcastle in your rankings.
I am. And I'm dropping Mancini. It was Mancini all along. Okay, final guy trading places. And I know this is a guy you're very familiar with, Fred. Mr. Robert Ray, now a Mariner. How are you feeling about Robbie Ray this year?
I don't know if I have the stomach for him, but I don't feel bad about him. I think his ADP is fair because we know the strikeouts will be there, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. And one thing about Robbie Ray that I find kind of interesting is he's been quite durable in his career. That's something he's always brought to the table. His innings totals aren't really high prior to last season because he didn't go deep into games because he walks everybody, but he makes his starts. So, he has been durable. So if you can count on the innings or at least the starts, and hopefully he gets the innings, you're going to get a lot of strikeouts from him. So that's going to be there. It's just a matter of whether he can retain these gains that he made in Toronto. I'm okay with him at his ADP. I haven't had any shares of him. I don't think I'm going to. How about you?
I'm not doubling down on Never Robbie Ray.
Right.
I haven't found myself getting him yet, but that's mostly because of how I've been building. I mean, there's been a couple either ors where I think it's been close, where he's gone versus where I've taken him. But you're right. I haven't gotten him yet. I think it's a fair price. He went 1 pick before me in the 4th round in one draft where I took Giolito, and I would have taken Giolito over him.
Same.
And I would take Nola over him too, who went like 5 picks later after that. Nola versus Giolito was an interesting debate for me, by the way. Another league, I took my first closer ahead of him. I took Iglesias over him in the 4th round. This is the pre-inflation prices apparently. But yeah, point is, I've been close, but not really close to him so far.
Yeah, that's really where I am. I think, like last year, obviously he was so good, but outside of last year, he has one in his career before last year where he had a WHIP below 1.33.
Mm-hmm.
So 1.33 was his second best season prior to last year. It's now his 3rd best season, obviously. He can get you a reasonable ERA. I just worry that WHIP jumps way up this year. And then his BABIP was low last year, like really low for him, about 50 points below his 40 points, below his career mark. If it jumps up, that brings the WHIP up, that puts more guys on base. Maybe, I don't know, maybe then he gives in and issues a few more walks. I don't know. Like I said, I'm interested. I'm not against him. I don't think he's a bad pick. I don't think I'm going to have any. I'm trying to think of a scenario where I would want him, but I don't know. Maybe if I didn't address pitching before I took him, he's going to be my ace. Because he can get the strikeouts, and at least there's the upside there. We've seen it. We saw it last year. Maybe. So,
the question is, how much did Toronto unlock him, can he?
There's another guy in my theory with Gossman, by the way. Yeah. This is another guy who, with Pete Walker as his pitching coach, had a really good season.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then you have to decide, can Seattle do the same with them? Better ballpark, but
reasonable division. I feel like, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
in fact, I think in a lot of cases, it might be that, the division's even more competitive than it was last year for them.
Yes, I think. Yeah, I think so. When I look at the lineups in that division, like the Angels lineups, depends a lot on health. There's so many guys, right? Trout, Rendon, like Justin Upton. Like, who knows what the Angels lineup would be like? But the Rangers
Hmm.
lineup, I don't think's good. Houston's lineup is good. The A's lineup probably won't be good by the
Right.
time the dust settles on the offseason. Like, this is a reasonable landing spot for Ray. Assuming the DH2 is coming to the National League, then there's no
That evens
benefit.
that out. Yeah.
Yeah, there would have been no benefit. So this is a pretty good spot for him. It really comes down to him. Can he continue to limit the walks?
Right. That's right. So that's I won't say I won't rule him out entirely, but right now I'm not inclined to get him, but it's close. It is pretty
Yeah,
close.
yeah.
Uh, all right, that's where we're gonna wrap up on our outline today. We got a couple other topics we'll save for next week. We did have one listener question. Jasper says, "I have a dynasty startup draft starting tomorrow. 24 teams, 40 major league spots, 30 minor league spots, head-to-head points. Picks 9th and odd rounds, 16th and even rounds. He's thinking pitcher heavy in the first 10 rounds. You know, I guess the question is that a good strategy? Most of the dynasty content I read suggests you go hitter heavy
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
I don't do a whole lot of dynasty startup. You should probably listen to James Anderson's podcast from earlier this season. He did a lot of dynasty talk then. In fact, you go to rotowire.com/try. You can get that free 10-day trial. But you can also just go in all the podcasts, search RotoWire in your podcast, and you can see all the off-season content that James did. A lot of it, they did a startup dynasty league, and he talked about it with all the people in the league as well. You can get a good idea of what they value and how those drafts go. That could give you a better answer than what I'm going to give you, probably, especially for a league of your size, especially of your sort of format. But typically, if I'm thinking long term, I want to have a strong base of young hitters and build out from there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm fine with taking lots of pitchers early. You kept hearing me scream when you were reading some of these rosters today. I'd say, "Where's the pitchers?" Like from some of these
Right.
people who were drafting 5 hitters in the first 6 rounds. They're like, "Where's their pitch? Where are their pitchers?" But in a dynasty, yeah, we know that unpredictable nature of pitching. So yeah, I would be careful going too hitter heavy or too pitcher heavy in the early rounds.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. Thanks, Jasper, for the question. Thanks, everybody, for listening to RotoWire. Fred and I are happy to be back. It was fun. It flew by. The hour flew by. Want to thank WinBet for their sponsorship. I think we'll talk a little bit about whether we have a universal DH next week and what that means and maybe who benefits. So who knows? We'll also probably have a little bit more progress, or at least a better idea of whether we're going to have progress on the labor talk. So maybe that kind of spurs some more of the conversation then too. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Good luck in your slow drafts right now. We'll talk to you again next week.